enough people to do this. Whoa. I'm voting with that one today.
No, let's not. And our goal should be done before that. So come on.
Okay. Good evening. By one of our clocks, it's 7 o'clock. The other one, I think, is way wrong. But anyway, let's get started. Welcome to the Urbana City Council. And would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Here.
Mr. Bowersox?
Here.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Present.
Mr. Lewis?
Present.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Smythe? Here. Ms. Stevenson?
Present by teleconference.
Mayor Pressing?
Here. The first item is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which is September 4th, 2007.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Barnes, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Any additions or corrections? Mr. Smythe.
Actually, I think in the discussion of the deferral towards the end of the minutes, I think the seconder is backwards here. I believe it was that I moved to defer, but the deferral was seconded by Brandon. The original motion was seconded by Heather Stevenson. I think those are backwards.
By me, I believe.
The original motion was seconded by you, wasn't it, Heather?
Yes.
And then the deferral was seconded by Brandon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we just need to switch those two names. It's on page 4 of 5 at the top.
Okay.
It says Kohler Avenue between University Avenue and Park Street. The motion was seconded by Alderman Bowersox. It should have been seconded by Alderwoman Stevenson, and then the motion to defer was seconded by Alderman Bowersox.
Okay, are you okay with those corrections?
Yes.
Okay, let's vote on it then as corrected. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are corrected and approved. Any additions to the agenda? All right, now we're up to petitions and communications. Anyone who would like to address the Urbana City Council can fill out a little card like this and have up to 5 minutes to talk about whatever your concern is. It looks like, I can't quite read your name. Is it Stefan Haddad?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Yeah, Stephanie.
Stephanie Haddad, okay.
You, whatever.
Okay, would you like to come up and just state your name and address?
Okay, hi, my name's Stephanie Haddad. I live at... Whoa. Okay. Sorry. I haven't eaten in a while. My name's Stephanie Haddad. I live at 802 West Green in apartment 304. I'm a student at the U of I. I'm majoring in painting and sculpture. I'm a super senior, so I've been here a while. I've been around the block. And the reason I'm here is I'm hoping to get some inline skaters to be legally allowed to be in the street, because within the past few years we've been stopped by the police, and last year and this year we have been stopped even more than normal. Inline Insomniacs was established in 2001. It used to only be about 10 people who would go skating once a week at midnight, and that's what we do. We get our exercise, we hang out, we're not destructive, we don't have a bigger plan than moving around a little and escaping homework. We've had cops tell us that there's drunk drivers on the loose and that we could be hit, and that's all well and good, and I understand that that is a problem, especially around a college town. But we've recently, like, our highest number of people recorded is 64. That's quite a few people to have on the road, and we were told that legally we would be allowed on the road to be single file all the way to the right. Now, if we have 64 people or even 40 people doing that, we're going to take up like a quarter mile, and I feel that that would create more targets for cars and stuff, and that if we would be allowed to be in group form, to be like side by side or like something like 3 to 4 people to take up a lane rather than side by side, or to stick to the sidewalks, which aren't the best in Urbana. There's still a lot of brick roads and brick sidewalks, so we stick to just a few roads within the area, and I'm just hoping that we could maybe be allowed to be in the street, please.
Danielle Chenoweth.
Sounds fun. I'd like to join you sometime. It's once a month, and what's
No,
your?
it's once a week.
Once a week?
We alternate
Okay.
Tuesdays and Wednesday evenings, because so when people have messy schedules, they
Okay.
can maybe show up every other week instead.
And it's, is it, let's see, do you have a route that you usually take every time, or is it different?
We
each
don't
time?
have one set route. We, how many do we have? Like 10? Yeah. We have 10 routes throughout the Urbana-Champaign area. We don't just stick to Urbana. We have several locations that we'll stop at. One will be the parks within Urbana. Like, we have a permit with the Urbana Park District to be there after hours for all the parks. So we like Meadowbrook a lot. It's excellent when the moon is full. And we go to Crystal Lake Park as well. Our permit is currently expired, but we are in the process of renewing it, and our contact at the district is Ellen Kirsanoff, and she said, hey, you can talk to me if you want. So if you guys would like to contact her, I can give her your email or phone number. Her son's right there. You can talk to him too.
You can go down Ray Street on that bike path, walking path, which would, so you don't have to be in the street there, right? And once you get into Meadowbrook, then there's paved paths. So where do you feel you have to be in the street, or you just prefer the street?
The sidewalks are skinny, so that even if the surface is usable, it's still, like, your stride is really impeded. I have my skates. I can put them on and show you what a stride width really is, but a width is at least like this. Like,
For one person?
Because we have people that are 5 feet tall, but we have people who are like 6'3". And you can't really go anywhere if your stride is really short and impeded like that. It's easier to go on the street, and we go faster, and that means we'll have less time to be hit by cars.
Brandon Bowersox.
Yeah, I know as a cyclist, the thing in large groups that they tell us is actually that when you have a lot of people, it's safer to be riding 2 abreast or 2 by 2 and to actually form a group and take up a lane. And so I feel like the same thing applies, and I want to kind of look into it more. But from your perspective, what's the kind of safest group or the safest structure that you all feel like you'd be safest in out on the roads?
What we've been doing, and we haven't had any injuries by cars yet, and probably never will, the way that we work. We have the group. We normally take up 1 lane, and whenever somebody has a car, we have a couple leads and a couple backs. Recently, we have started to have our leads to wear reflective bands so that they're more visible, and our backs are wearing blinking lights like cyclists have, so that we can be more visible to cars, and in case they don't really have headlights, if they just have like their parking lights on or no lights. And we have leads that know the route, and whenever there's a car sighted, everybody is taught at the beginning, especially at the beginning of the year, that you shout out car behind or car front or wherever the car is, and everybody gets to the side. Some people even stop and get in grass or like get completely off the road. Actually, most people get completely off the road, but everybody moves to the side as soon as the car is sighted. We have really good vocal communication, and everybody just watch each other's backs. And that seems to work well because nobody's gotten hit.
Charlie Smythe.
Yeah, I guess my big concern is the lighting. And since I ride I ride a bicycle in a group, and we're doing 20, 25 miles an hour in a pack. And again, most of us are single file or 2 by 2. Usually when we're doing that speed, we're single file. it's pretty intense. The communication is real important because we're doing the same thing: car front, car back, the whole bit, car left, and going through intersections in a group way and clearing the intersections. So safety is a concern. It strikes me that this is something for the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee to look into and figure out. I don't know how the state laws apply. Clearly, we need input from the police department to figure it out. And I know that at least one of us is an inline skater, so she probably can add to this as well. So.
We were talking about complete streets, but we left out inline skaters, so I guess we have to rethink all our stuff. Well, thank you very much. We will look into it, see what other cities are doing, and we'll certainly talk to our public works people. But I'm glad to see that you have all the safety in mind by having the lights and everything, and that people get out of the way for cars, because there are drunk drivers out there that even if you're doing everything right, it might not work.
I have a list of websites of different organizations that are in big cities like Los Angeles and New York City and stuff, and they have organizations that skate in the evening. I can give the list to someone.
Okay.
It should all go to Brandon.
Yeah, you could send it to any of us, maybe Danielle and me. You have our addresses. All our addresses are on the City of Urbana website. Lynn, were you saying you were interested too? So our email addresses are all on the city website, and you could just send us the list of links, and those of us that are following up will especially be interested in learning about it and getting some answers back to you.
You guys can come if you want. I invited the police bike patrol. They haven't showed up yet, unfortunately.
I'm not quite as adventuresome, I don't think.
Yeah. Midnight, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Anybody else want to speak? Okay, we'll move on. Old business.
And I'll recuse myself at this time.
Okay, Lynn Barnes is recusing herself. First is ordinance number 2007-09-101, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Urbana and Carl Foundation regarding the vacation of certain streets and alleys. Did our legal, okay, Bill Gray, our Public Works Director, is here.
Thank you. This evening, we provided a update of a couple minor changes to the memo and agreement that you had in the packet. The cover memo originally said sections 5 through 8 have been modified or added accordingly, and the new updated memo dated September 17th says sections 6 through 9. So I wanted to point that out as far as what were the actual changes. If you would please then turn to the agreement itself on the first page. The paragraph at the bottom, section 2, the third sentence from the bottom reads, there's a highlighted word that's portion, P-O-R-T-I-O-N. Prior to, we had potion, so we added the R to correct that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Again, this agreement is added those areas that we discussed at our last meeting. We believe we've addressed it. The Carl staff folks have looked at the agreement. They're comfortable with how this reads and recommend approval at this point.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes, since I'm the one who pushed for including all the stuff in writing that Carl agreed to in public verbally, I really appreciate the fact that I think this document reflects what we all came to understand would happen on the street. So I'd like to thank Carl. I'd like to thank the staff for getting it all in order. I think this protects the city's position very well. One question I have, and I asked Bill Gray this just before the meeting started, is realize that we're referring to 4 ordinance numbers in here. One of those four pieces of street, the Kohler Street is split up into 2 parts, but we've also included Busey between University and Park, And that really is a street that's not needed for the construction. It's not related to this construction. And it strikes me that we could remove that from this agreement. That what Carl does there, since they basically, it's like an alleyway at this point. They own it, both sides of it, and for safety reasons, as their loading dock area, we could remove it and let them proceed with whatever they want to do in the near future. There, it shouldn't be tied to the rest of this agreement. And the way I understand this, and this is for Ron O'Neill here, is that no closing of Kohler or Park Street would occur until such time as a permit is granted by the state to proceed with the full building as we understand it. I see them nodding yes. That's okay. So we all understand that. So okay, good. That's your reading too, Ron?
Yes, as I understand what the agreement, Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that was part of what was incorporated into the amended agreement with Carl. Okay.
So what I'd like to do then is when everybody's done talking about this, I'd like to move removal of the ordinance number 2007-09-097 from this agreement, which is the Busey piece of that, leaving the other three parts, if that's okay with you. And I'll just save that till we're done. This is it's the very first whereas of the agreement. It says which said streets are identified. It's the fourth line, and there are four pieces here, the four ordinances. Really, the first one of those, the Busey Avenue portion, is separate from the project. It's 097? 098, Busey Avenue. Okay. Is it 098? Okay. Well, whichever piece is the Busey Avenue between University and Park. Oh, it's 098. So I guess I've got it wrong here. Busey Avenue between University. It's 098. Yes, 098.
Mr. Bowersox.
If everybody agrees to that.
Mr. Bowersox.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. I'm not sure whether I agree to that. I actually don't know whether that might be good for Carl or not good for Carl because, for example, in Section 5, the City of Urbana agrees to hold Carl harmless from any and all liability, loss, or damage Carl may suffer as a result of property damage. There are things we're doing here to actually clarify the street open period and to hold Carl harmless for some liability, and they might not like the fact that we would take Busey out of the streets where we would hold them harmless. So I just asked that question to wonder whether anybody's run that by them before we would remove that street from the streets that the whole agreement applies to. Does anyone?
Mr. Snyder, do you have a comment?
Sure. It would be fine with that. I mean, I would
Sorry.
I would assume if you pull that out of the agreement, we could go ahead and move to close that street or do something sooner rather than later. And so from that perspective, it would be fine with us.
Any other discussion on this? Mr. Smythe.
Okay, in that case, I move to remove from the first whereas ordinance number 2007-09-098, the portion of the Busey Avenue between University Avenue and Park Street, because that's separate from the three pieces of the streets that are needed for actual construction.
I second. Yeah.
Okay. Does an amendment like this require a roll call, or is it just a voice vote? Can't remember. Just voice? That's what my... Okay, you want to do it right. Any discussion on that amendment? Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Smythe, seconded by Mr. Bowersox to delete ordinance number 2007-09-098 from the first whereas in the agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, is there a motion for the ordinance? Anyone make a motion for the ordinance?
Move approval of ordinance number 2007-09-101, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Urbana and Carl Foundation regarding the vacation of certain streets and alleys.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Smythe, seconded by Mr. Roberts. Is there any
I
further?
don't have any discussion there, but I don't understand why it's necessary that we have alleys in there because we've already moved approval of the alleys.
Anybody have an answer to Heather's question?
Which alleys?
Mr. Gray.
I believe in the agenda, it's a typo. In the actual agreement, the words alleys are removed.
Okay, Heather, it's a typo on the agenda.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
then,
Okay.
actually, the motion should just simply then be amended to say vacation of certain streets, period.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
motion is about vacation of certain streets. Any other questions or discussion?
I have a quick comment.
Mr. Smythe?
Well, there are some issues and there's some confusion, I think, in the public between Carl Foundation, hospital, Carl Clinic, which is a separate entity essentially, and various names and renamings of Health Alliance. We've come to a fairly good agreement here with the hospital on proceeding. I've still got a number of concerns with respect to the clinic. I know that the State Attorney General is pursuing some issues with both of the local clinics, and I think it's sad that in a community as progressive as ours, that we still don't make sure that everybody has adequate health care coverage. I think Danielle has raised some issues a couple weeks ago. Others have raised them to me. The issues of the clinic denying Medicaid coverage to patients, or Medicaid patients from getting health care that they need. Now, I'm glad that we've been able to work with the hospital. I'd like to see us move forward and try to work with the clinics in town, and this is both of them essentially, to try to remedy that situation. I think it's a sad state of affairs that in this country we have people going without health care. Of course, that's a national issue, but again, I believe that locally you can sometimes address these things and should to set an example. So thank you.
There are no further comments. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes,
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. Okay, that motion carries. Next is ordinance number 2007-09-097, an ordinance vacating a portion of Park Street between Busey Avenue and Kohler Avenue.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smythe, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
yes, excuse me.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. Okay, that motion carries. Next is ordinance number 2007-09-098, an ordinance vacating a portion of Busey Avenue between University Avenue and Park Street.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smythe, seconded by Mr. Bowersox. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis? Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes,
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. That motion carries. Next is ordinance number 2007-09-099, an ordinance vacating a portion of Kohler Avenue between Park Street and Church Street.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smythe, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
yes,
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. Okay, that ordinance passes. Now we are on to
09-100.
okay, ordinance number 2007-09-100, an ordinance vacating a portion of Kohler Avenue between University Avenue and Park Street.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smythe, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mayor Pressing.
Yes. Okay, that ordinance passes.
If I could add one quick comment.
Mr. Smythe.
I heard that there was interest on the part of Carl Hospital to keep the council better informed. I look forward to updates on how this thing is progressing in particular, so thank you.
Okay.
Take a minute just real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to formally thank you very much. It's, you guys have done a careful deliberation and consideration, and you were prompt with your decision-making, and obviously we think you made a good decision for healthcare in our community, and we just look forward to providing the region's healthcare here in Urbana. So thank you.
Okay, next we have reports of standing committees, the Committee of the Whole.
I'll take that report.
Dennis Roberts.
The Committee of the Whole met on September 12th in these chambers and forwarded to Council various ordinances for approval, and I shall read them. For the committee, I move the adoption of ordinance number 2007-09-104, an ordinance approving a second amendment to the redevelopment agreement with Alan Strong, 395 North Ray Street.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Roberts, seconded by Mr. Bowersox. Any discussion about the Alan Strong? Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox,
Yes.
Ms. Shenoweth,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Okay, that ordinance passes.
Okay.
Mr. Roberts.
The second was ordinance number 2007-09-106, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, and this concerns a Windows Workshop grant. And for the committee, I move its approval.
Second?
Okay, that was motion by Mr. Roberts, seconded by Mr. Smythe.
Yeah.
Let me do that this morning. Okay. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox,
I will abstain.
Ms. Shenoweth,
Abstain.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mayor Pressing.
Yes. That carries. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. The third is ordinance number 2007-09-108, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, and this concerns special census costs. And for the committee, I move its approval.
Second?
Okay, motion by Mr. Roberts, seconded by Ms. Barnes. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox,
Yes.
Ms. Shenoweth,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mayor Pressing.
Yes. That carries. Mr. Roberts?
Okay. Item D is ordinance number 2007-09-103, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance. This concerns the University Avenue Corridor Study. And for the Committee of the Whole, I move its approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes?
Mr. Bowersox,
Yes.
Ms. Shenoweth,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mayor Pressing.
Yes. That carries. Mr. Roberts?
Next is ordinance number 2007-09-107, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance. This concerns recycling coordinator. For the committee, I move its approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, seconded by Mr. Smythe. Any discussion? Oh, Mr. Gray.
Mr. Gray.
I just wanted, for information purposes, a question came up regarding battery recycling. I just thought it'd be appropriate to include this material as information. It's on our website, but just to help answer questions that the public might have
Okay.
on recycling products and that sort of thing, so.
Appreciate that.
That's also available at the booth at the market too, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Shenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing.
Yes. Mr. Roberts.
Item F on the agenda was ordinance number 2007-09-105, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, and this relates to employee retirement costs, the city clerk secretary. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Roberts, seconded by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Ms. Shenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing.
Yes.
And that concludes the report from the committee of the whole.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we have reports from special committees, so, oh, you do? All right, Mr. Bowersox has a report.
It's not quite a special committee report, but I just wanted to announce that Walk and Bike to School Day is coming up on Wednesday, October 3rd, and we're encouraging, at all the schools in Urbana, actually all the grade schools, encouraging kids to walk to school that day and coordinating it, and they get maps to put pictures of where their house was and how far they walked, and so there will be a lot more about that coming soon. But to prepare for that, there's a bike rodeo that will be held this Saturday, September 22, at the Farmers Market between 8 and noon. If you know any children of all ages who need to learn how to bike, want to learn bike rules, how to fit a bike helmet on and safely wear a bike helmet, Bike Rodeo will have training on all those topics, and it will be near the market this Saturday from 8 to noon, so I encourage everyone to show up and then to get ready to walk and bike to school. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, reports of officers. I'd like to say that this is the last city council meeting for our fire chief, Rex Munt, who's accepted a job in Iowa. I think they're going to be very happy with him. So, thank you for all your years with Urbana. Okay, any other reports of officers? Next is new business, mayor's appointment, Neighborhood Safety Task Force, Christopher Storr.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr.
That's fine.
Smythe, seconded by Ms. Barnes. Any discussion?
Just
Mr. Roberts.
I just think that it would be a very excellent contribution from the East neighborhood. Mr. Storr is the president of HUNA currently. He's a thoughtful person and will have a lot to contribute, I'm sure.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. There being no further business,